here we go. Full suspension 29. Full suspension 29. It really doesn't matter. Full suspension 29, full suspension 26. Besides the size of the wheels, almost the same. Everything else is the same. Full suspension, front forks, travel. I believe there's 80 travel. There's 140 travel. This bike has got 100 travel. You can lock if it's what I'd call a better suspension. You can lock the front out or lock it in. Lock it out, lock it in by this dial here, or most of them have a shifter up here now that you shift in, shift out for the front to lock it in, lock it out. When you lock it out or in, depending on what you want to say, when you turn it to lock position, your suspension barely moves. Otherwise, you have it unlocked and it's got all kinds of, as you can see, all kinds of shock. The rear shock. This one has the brain, little supposed, let's call it a computer. It's not a computer, of course. It's just got parts in it that move up and down and decide what kind of terrain you're on. Connected to the rear suspension, which is right here. This suspension won't move much. A lot of bikes you'll move a lot. This one won't move much because it's got the brain on it. It kind of tries to tell itself when it allow it to move and when it won't. Whether you love it or not, a lot of people love it. I'm not the biggest fan, but either way. So we have the rear suspension. We have the rear triangle, which the rear suspension controls. You have to have the rear triangle to make the rear suspension work, so the back can come up and down. You have the front suspension, which we discussed. That makes up the full suspension bike. Other than that, we're going to talk about a few things because this is a geared bike. It's a 1, I've changed it to a 1 up front by 10 in the rear. It used to be a 2 by 10, which meant 2 gears up front. This right here is the 10. A lot of them are 11s now. The 10, this bunch of gears is called the cassette. This is the cassette. This is the derailleur. If you want to be fancy, I call it a derailleur. I don't care what people say. The derailleur, the cassette. On the other side, we have the rotor with the caliper. This is hydraulic caliper. These are Maguras. I love Magura brakes. Pin, pads, easy, best changing system. As I mentioned earlier, this bike has a solid through axle, whatever you want to call it, twist in, locks in, cranks in, no quick release. It is both front and back.